Hey, good afternoon everybody. Today I'm going to show you how I make one of my stir fries that I've made this so often I can do it in my sleep. I used to do an older version years ago with a sauce, and now I just do it as a dry fry with oil, and it comes out really good. It's quite simple. It's just one boneless, skinless chicken breast, 6 ounces. I freeze them in advance. This one's nearly defrosted. So they're easier to cut, and for this dish I do a cube fry instead of a slice, and a pack of bean sprouts, green onions, and ginger that I'll be trimming down. I actually fry it in the oil, that's how I get the flavor out. A couple onions, garlic, and a bit of sesame oil. Here's the ingredients. Ideally you should always, unless they're fresh from the store, should always give your bean sprouts a quick rinse under the sink and just let them drain. I'll just pop the chicken back in the fridge for now. Okay, so first I always start with the ginger. Now what you should do, unless the store freaks out on you, is always snap a big piece to make sure the inside is good. If it's dark brown, it's starting to rot. Like, I'm going to cut off this bit, I left this on here just for you to see. So I'll snap this and see if it's good inside. I snapped it, and there's just a little bit of brown that I was talking about at the edge, but I'm going to cut that off, so that's okay. Yeah, this is exactly what I was talking about. So that's why you snap it, to make sure that you're not getting dark brown inside. If you do, you have a bad piece, and just get another one. So I generally just square this up. Ginger is so cheap where I am. You may or may not want to do that. Now, speaking of, there's multiple ways to peel ginger. You can either use a knife and just gently go around. This is quite time consuming. Okay, and requires a fair amount of practice. Definitely keep your fingers away from the blade. Okay, so that's one method. The other method is the spoon method, which I don't really like because it's just a hassle and you get sprayed in the eye a lot. So you can take a little spoon, you can peel it like that, or you get a vegetable peeler and just do that. Lay it on a flat side is always the best to do that, so it doesn't wiggle around and you don't get hurt. And then what you're going to do is not exactly shave it that thin, knife slipping a little, but you do want to get fairly decent thin slices out of it. And I'll just give away one piece here. You don't want to be putting them in that thick, alright? Because the flavor won't come out properly and you won't get as many slices. I got my little dish set aside for that. Next, I just rinse the whole bunch of green onions. Take off the white tips with the roots. I usually try to take off about that much, square cut it, and if there's any pieces that are broken or looking nasty, you can just break those off. Now that one is that one's a little too tired to make it for supper. This dish you do not want out and pick off any outside bits that may have a bit of rot starting on them. Now for this dish you do not want your little thin slice. You want slices that are about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. You want nice big pieces for this. That and that. And if you can't get little onions, either 2 small onions or 1 kind of medium big onion. And this time of the year they're all small, so I go with what I can get. These are nearly impossible to peel by hand, so I simply make a slight cut in the outer layer. And if you just get your thumb underneath, what you do is you get the dry skin plus all the outer blemishes on the outside. See, like that I'm talking about, there's no more dried skin, but that you don't want that layer in the dish. So you just give that a nice thin slice, not all the way through, just enough to get it off. There you go. And it's all nice and clean underneath. Now for this, you don't want to dice it. You just want to do You want it in chunky pieces. So down the middle like that. So I do the garlic next and the chicken last, because you always want protein, especially something that's slippery like chicken, to be the last thing on your cutting board. It's just good food safety practice. Now this is supposed to be Canadian garlic, which is a nice switch from the stuff we're usually stuck with. Now this again is according to taste. I like a lot of garlic. If you don't want so much, put in less, and these cloves are pretty big. Plus also, given that it's winter, there might be a few spots that have to come off. I can kind of see that right now. So just cut the end off first, and then you don't want to smash it totally. You just want enough that the peel just lifts right off. There you go. And yeah, I could see that underneath. So that you just gently slice off. Put that to the side for now. Now, when you cut, if you hold down with the knife, one side of the peel should just come away like that, which kind of makes it easier to get the rest off after. And this dish sort of has this nice kind of country feel to it. It's big chunks. So you don't have to be a really skilled cook to make this, with even chopping in small pieces. Okay, so there's a big plus for you out there, right? And then just give the garlic a rough chop. You want nice big pieces. These will actually sort of deep fry in the pan, which is so awesome, and they taste good if you've ever had deep fried garlic. There we go. Yeah, that's just good enough. You don't need them any smaller than that. Those are fine. Now, people may argue about rinsing the chicken. What I do is I rinse it in the bag to prevent the dreaded sink splash. Because yes, they are right about that. You know, even though you're trying to clean the bacteria off the chicken, if you've got a dirty sink and you get backsplash onto the meat, well, it could end up worse than before. So I kind of just do that. I like these little freezer bags. I buy them in bulk, and then I freeze them individually. Then I just drain that, pick it out. I don't need to tap this dry, but I will take off any excess fat. Let me just check to see if there's... This is generally where, even boneless, skinless, if you're going to have tendons or things like that, it's here. And if there's any blood vessels. So I'm just going to give this a very, very minor trim, more to show you than anything else. It looks pretty good as it is. So lengthwise in strips. And they're just nice little bite-sized chunks. Trying to keep these even is good because they'll cook at the same rate. Yeah, and you can see that's still a little bit frozen, but it makes it so much easier to cut. Because if you're new to this, slicing raw chicken can be a dicey proposition because it will move around on you, and you definitely never want to get cut, right? I don't know if you heard that little crunchy noise. That was the nearly frozen bit. Take a moment to scrub the cutting board right away. You don't want to leave meat stuff on there any longer than you have to. And the last step before starting to cook is I just very liberally sprinkle sesame oil on this. Yeah, basically you want enough that it's kind of all coated without too much sitting in the bottom. You leave that with a nice garlic sesame on it to marinate in the fridge while you start cooking. So I start the pan on medium, put a fair amount of oil in it, 2-3 tablespoons. And at the later stages of this, oh yes, if you have a spatter screen, please by all means use it. I do. You can use a regular pan lid. The only trouble with doing that is you're not going to get the amount of crispiness that you want in the dish at the end. Now I do save this for the end, but I've got a nice big one here at hand ready. But right for now, I will put the lid on just for the first few minutes. I'm just going to tilt that up so you can see what I can see. When you start to see it's starting to sizzle at the bottom of the pan, that's when you want to take the lid off and give it a stir. Now I'm doing this basically to make sure all the bean sprouts are coated with oil. And you can see they're starting to get darker a little bit. You actually do not want to brown the bean sprouts right now, because if you do that, the length of time it's going to be in the pan, they're just going to burn just crispy, unless you like that. So you can do that, and we'll see how we go. You can always adjust the cooking time after you throw the onions in. So what you're going to do is just leave that in there like that, all the onions at once, lid back on for a few minutes. That's good. Yeah, you can start to see it and hear it. And you can see a few of the bean sprouts are starting to brown. Yeah. You can tell from the noise. There we go. Now that's a little charred on the bottom, but the flavor mixes in quite well. You see what I mean? If we cook the bean sprouts any more at the beginning, a few charred bits scattered through the dish really add a lot of character and flavor. But if it's all the way through, no. Good habit to get into. I mean, you can turn it right off if you've got electric. I find it's more irritating to light it, so what I do is I just turn the burner right down to low when I'm dealing with this. So that way when I put the oil in, it doesn't immediately begin smoking. I generally cook with the fan on, but I found that it seems to screw up the soundtrack. Now, see, that was just enough oil. There's none dripping in the bottom of the pan. I'm going to add some more right now, approximately an equivalent amount that I did, and this is going to be enough to do the ginger and the chicken. Toss that in there, and I do take the time to spread these out as well as best I can. I think you can see what I meant about slicing them really thin. The ones that are actually really thin are translucent nearly, and you can see them frying through. Whereas the thicker pieces, and that's not even that thick, seem to have a harder time of it. So what you're doing now, and I'll turn that up just a little bit, sort of to low, because you actually do want these to deep fry to get all of the ginger volatile oils out of the ginger and into the cooking oil without the ginger burning, because if you burn the ginger it has a bitter aftertaste. So a little patience is in order here, and the spatter screen will be in a minute too, so I'll just get that right now. And when it's nearly done, I turn it back up to medium to finish the ginger off quickly and then get the chicken out of the fridge ready to go. Yeah, so when all you can smell is ginger and you can see that they're all fried through and they're getting little brown edges on all of them, that's the sign that you can, and you hear the snap, crackle, pop there. That's when you get your tongs and kind of just grab them all at once. If you have ginger fanatics in the house, they will gladly eat these for you. Trust me. Okay, you do want to try to get all the bits out so they don't burn. Anything left? Now, you got to be careful now. This will spatter. And I keep my screen ready. Give it a good stir before to get all the sesame mixed in. You got to be quick here if you don't want to mess. You see what I mean there, right? So this is going to go on right away, and yeah, I'll turn on. Okay, that was the worst of it. So if you've got electric, just move the pan off the heat. If you've got gas like I do, turn it down right to low until you can hear the sound change. You should be able to see that the garlic bits are actually deep frying in the oil, okay? So what you want to do here, And you can turn it up a little bit. Yeah, you want to stir the chicken and pick up any brown, either bean sprout or ginger from the bottom of the pan. You're sort of deglazing, except you're doing it with oil, okay? And yes, at the end, if you don't want to eat all this wonderful oil, yes, you can get a slotted spoon like this and just scoop it out and use the oil in the pan. Or you can have people go, "Are you out of your mind? Give me the oil." Again, a personal choice, but at least you have the option, right? Okay, so while that's looking nice, then what you do is get your onions. And you have to remember, I did not season this at all. There's no soy sauce or anything in here. All that brown is actually caramel from the vegetables, which is great. So what you do is just stir this up, turn it up just a little more, back to medium for a couple of minutes with the spatter screen, just to have that finish off and all the flavors. Okay, so it's been a couple of minutes. And when you do stir it up, you can see there's not actually that much oil. And when you consider how much fat is in deep fried foods and you compare it, and I'm using a healthy oil, it's not that bad. And you sort of get that deep fried flavor thing happening without deep frying. So it does have its advantages. Yeah, I'd say that's good. So I'm going to dish up some rice so you can see. This should feed 3 people with rice easily. The best part are the bean sprouts. So I would not just indiscriminately scoop stuff out into bowls. I would go through this and get some of the bean sprouts and just lay that on the rice like that. And then I'll show you the technique I was talking about. If you are concerned about excessive oil, get your slotted spoon and just get some on there without all the bean sprouts. And shake it. And you can do that to get rid of the oil. But again, there's not that much. So there it is. Chicken with ginger and green onion. I really do hope you try this. I think you're really going to enjoy it. See you again.